Welcome, Algebra students. In this tutorial, we will learn how to graph linear inequalities. This is a readiness TEK called TEK 3D, and we will begin by examining the four principal inequality symbols. So the first one here means less than or equal to. That's this one right here. Okay, so it's got the line under it, and whenever there's a line under it, that means equal to. This is the less than symbol, so less than or equal to. It indicates that we should use a solid line and shade below that line, as is indicated in the shape below. The next symbol, okay, kind of flipped from the previous one, means greater than or equal to, again with the line indicating equal to. And that equal to means that you're going to have a solid line, and because it says greater than, we'll shade above. Okay, you can take a look at this little sketch right here to see what I mean by that. The next symbol, the next two symbols don't have lines underneath them, so they lack that or equal to part. So this next symbol means less than. We indicate that with a dashed line, and we shade below. Okay, and finally, we have the greater than symbol, and that is indicated by a dashed line where the shading is done above. Take a look at these four little sketches. I like to include these sketches even when I'm working problems, just to remind myself of what I'm looking for in my answer choices. Okay, moving on. Let's go over the steps to graphing a linear inequality when it's in slope-intercept form. That's a y equals mx plus b. So the first step here is to plot the y-intercept on a coordinate plane. Once you do that, you're going to use the slope, whatever it is, and think of it not as just a number, but as directions to go rise some number and run some number, either up some number over or down and over. To plot additional points, you'll sketch either a dotted / dashed line or a solid line, depending on the inequality sign, and then you'll shade above or below that line as indicated by the inequality sign. Well, now that we've learned kind of the basic steps, let's work an example. Okay, so in this example, we're given this statement: graph y blah 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 3 over 2x plus 1. So the very first thing we really need to do is figure out what that symbol is. And if we don't remember, we can go back to our little cheat sheet here, and we see that that's the greater than or equal to symbol. So now that we know what that means, we can look at our problem. Y is greater than or equal to 3 over 2x plus 1. So remember, the first step is to plot the y-intercept. Okay, the y-intercept is indicated at the end of the inequality. Plus 1 means the y-intercept is at 0, 1. And you see it plotted there on the coordinate plane. Now I'm going to use the slope, which is 3 over 2, and I'm going to read that in my mind as, from the y-intercept, I'm going to go up 3 and then over 2 to the right, and that will give me the next point on my line. Okay? So you see that I've done that here. I've gone up 3 over 2, put a blue dot, and now we can draw a line. Now, because it's a greater than or equal to symbol, it will be a solid line. And the final thing to do is just shade. Now we remember that when you have a greater than symbol, you're going to be shading above the line. So greater than equals shade above, less than equals shade below. So here's that shading done. This shaded region is where all of your solutions exist. Okay, this is the solution region. So any points plotted that fall within this shaded region are part of the solution. Any points you plot that lie outside of this shaded region are not part of the solution. Okay, this is the basic structure of the problem that you'll encounter on the STAAR test. And so now it's time for us to actually work one of these STAAR test questions. So we're actually going to be working number 17 from the 2019 test. And we're asked here, which graph best represents the solution set of y 3x minus 4? So that symbol is greater than, okay? That indicates a dashed line shaded above. Okay, so now we can read this as y greater than 3x minus 4. Let's analyze that. The y-intercept will be located at 0, negative 4, and the slope is positive, so it's going to be an upward sloping line from left to right. And that slope indicates that starting from the y-intercept, we should be able to go up 3, over 1 to the right, and find our next point. So looking at these different examples, we can eliminate answer choice A because it's shaded below and has a solid line. We can eliminate answer choice B because it has a solid line. We can eliminate answer choice C because it's a dashed line, but it's shaded below. We're looking for shading above. And answer choice D meets all of our requirements. It's a dashed line shaded above with a y-intercept at negative 4. Okay, so let's recap what we just learned. We've just learned how to graph linear inequalities in slope-intercept form. We've learned what the inequality symbols mean, when to use dashes versus solid lines, and how to shade above or below. We are now prepared to solve questions similar to the one we just did, question 17 from the 2019 STAAR test. Now, once we practice this skill a little bit and master it, we will learn how to graph linear inequalities that are not written in slope-intercept form. For example, we'll learn how to graph linear inequalities written in standard form, ax plus by equals c, point slope form, y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, and some random transitional forms before moving on to word problems and then systems of linear inequalities, which would be more than one linear inequality graphed on the coordinate plane with some overlapping solution region. Okay, so at this time, we're going to jump off this PowerPoint and actually work some problems. So very similar to the one that we just did. Let's take a look at this problem here. Which graph best represent the solution set of y blah blah 2x minus 5? All right. So right away, we've got to figure out what this symbol means. That symbol is the less than symbol. And what that indicates is that we're going to have a dashed line and the shading will be below the line. So we'll shade below. Now that right there is often enough to answer the question, but let's check the rest of the information. We have y less than 2x minus 5. Okay, so we have a y-intercept at 0, negative 5. And we have a slope which tells us to go up 2 over 1. Okay, so rise 2, run 1. It's positive slope, so that means it slopes upward from left to right. So let's see, we can eliminate any answer choices that are solid lines, so it's neither B nor D. And then remember, it's a positive slope, so it goes up from left to right, and that eliminates answer choice C. So by process of elimination, we think it's A, but before we circle it, let's double check. Does this appear to have a y-intercept at negative 5? Well, here's the y-intercept, and that does appear indeed to be at 0, -5. So that checks out. It's a dashed line. Is it shaded below? Yes, indeed, it's shaded below. Okay, so that's what we want. And that's why the answer is indeed A. All right, moving on. Which graph best represents the solution set of y 1/4 x? Okay, so I keep kind of muffling what it means because I want you, the learner, to tell me what this symbol means. This is extremely important. You have to be able to identify this symbol. That symbol is greater than or equal to. Okay, so greater than or equal to. What does this tell us? It tells us that we're going to have a solid line. Okay, that's the equal to part. And the greater than tells us we're going to shade above. Okay, so now let's analyze the actual inequality. So we have y greater than or equal to 1/4 x. So, what is the y-intercept here? The y-intercept is actually at 0, 0. When there's nothing else written, we can actually assume that this means plus 0. So the y-intercept is located at 0, 0. Okay, now the slope is positive. So from left to right, it goes up. And what it means is rise 1 and then run 4. So up 1 over 4 to the right. So let's look through our answer choices. Any dashed line can be eliminated. So F is no good. The rest of these are tricky because they are all upward sloping lines and they're all positive. So we're going to have to make sure that all of our other conditions are met. We're looking for answer choices that are shaded above the line. So we can eliminate answer choice G because it's shaded below the line. So it's either H or I. And at this point, since they both cross at 0, 0, the only thing we can check is the slope. Okay, remember our slope needs to be from the y-intercept at 0, 0 up 1 over 4. Well, let's take a look at H. Starting from 0, 0, I have to go up 1, up 2, up 3, up 4, and then over 1. So this is actually a slope of up 4 over 1. Well, that's not what I want. I want up 1 over 4. So it's not H. So we think it's I, but let's double check. Starting at 0, 0, I go up 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4 to arrive at my next point. So for all those different reasons, it's shaded above, it's a solid line, it crosses at 0, 0, and it has the correct slope. The answer choice here is I. All right, well, this is kind of the end of the presentation. I think you're at this point prepared to do a practice mastery test for TEKS 3DR, where the questions are similar to the ones that we've just practiced, where it's in slope-intercept form. And after this, like I said, we'll go over standard form, point slope form, transitional forms, and then we'll move on to those tricky word problems. But at this time, thank you so much for your attention. At this point, please go on to CUDA and complete the practice exercise for 3DR similar to question 17 from the 2019 test. Thank you very much.